Montara Sanitary District Board of Directors. It's July 21st, 2022. It is 7:33 p.m. Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Director Boyd?
Here.
Director Decker?
Here.
Harvey?
Here.
Lohman?
Yep.
Director Slater-Carter is not present at this time.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. That was roll call. President's statement. I'll just thank everyone for joining in. It's good to see a good little participation. And we are still in a drought. And as it gets more serious around the state, it's just always good to remember we live in a very water-wise community, and please keep up the good work. Do we have any oral comments for anything that is not on the agenda? I am not seeing hands. Let's move on to new business item 1, review concerning new service connection at Big Wave, Lot 4, Montara, APN 047311110.
Scott, did you forget the consent agenda?
There is nothing on the consent agenda tonight.
Okay, thanks, Scott. So the item review concerning new service connection at Big Wave Lot 4 Montara is an information item only that is being brought to the board at your own request. The last time we talked about Big Wave was in the context of the mainline extension that was completed and accepted. And we heard that the board was particularly interested in when and how connections are being issued, actual connections to the individual buildings. And so we have now a request for such a connection to the building on lot 4. And I'm going to ask Tanya to actually present the actual item and tell us what we're seeing here. SRT, Tanya's firm is essentially helping us with all applications, commercial or residential. And so we're working together on this. So Tanya, if you can please take it away.
Thank you, Clemens. Mr. President, members of the board, as the general manager stated, this is an informational item about a new service application that was filed by the Big Wave Group for domestic water and private fire protection water for new development located at Big Wave Lot 4, APN 047311110. This development of Lot 4 includes a roughly 15,000 square foot building that contains that proposed 11 individual commercial units. And it will be serviced by a proposed 8-inch water main. The 8-inch water main and other distribution system mains have been already approved, and that's not part of this application. This proposed water main extension was designed by the applicant in accordance with the district code and standard specifications and approved. And we included that in Exhibit A to the board item if you would like to see the plans and the floor plan. Just pieces of information for just for informational purposes. The district code requires that the proposed project with 11 individual water service connections will have, each unit should have an individual meter. So we responded to the applicant that we are asking them to purchase from the district one meter for each of the 11 commercial units, so 11 meters. The difficulty here is that only one unit is known occupancy. The other units, we don't know, neither the applicant nor the district knows what the usage is going to be. So at this time, we're proposing that they purchase They pay a total water capacity charge of $259,182 for domestic water service for Lot 4, which is made up of 11 5/8-inch connections, each $23,562. So we're sizing them at a minimum. The district offers to the applicants, and when the use is determined and the units we're expecting when the remaining 10 units will be developed, they will be coming back to the district to verify the size of the meter, and it's either will remain as purchased and installed, or we will be asking the then applicant to upgrade the meter. That's really what the informational item is all about. We wanted you to know what the request was sent back to the applicant. I advised the Big Wave people that we will be their representative, that we will be discussing this with the board tonight. I don't know if anybody's present, but we have communicated that this is going to be presented to the board tonight for information only. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Tanya, could you please, before we ask questions, Scott, with your permission, Tanya, could you please repeat how you responded to the request to just have one connection again, please? Would you repeat your response again, please?
I'm sorry, Dr. Harvey, would you repeat your question? I'm not sure I understand.
You advised them that they need to have all 11 connections. Is that correct? Could you please repeat what your response to their request was?
Thank you for clarifying. Sorry for.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you.
A little slow here. Yes, since the it's in the district's ordinance and in the district code that, and it's due to conservation requirements and due to severe drought, we, as board may remember, the ordinance was adjusted and revised to promote conservation, that we're requiring individual meters for each unit. So yes, our response to the application was, please come in and pay for 11 5/8 meter connections.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see a hand from Greg.
Thanks, Scott. I wanted to just comment from my perception on how I would analyze this client and transactions with this client. I don't know what the board is going to do. I'm unaware of any financial analysis on the specific Big Wave situation. But going back a couple of years, some of you were in conversations with me when we talked about how Big Wave was going to be donating an asset, and I commented that they were going to be donating a burden, because once that asset is part of the system, it's going to have to be replenished. And I would also comment that you have been leaders in segregating volumetric charges from asset-based fees, such as the water system reliability charge, because as we know, regardless of whether a drop of water is used or not, the fact that we provide a connection or potential connection and capacity means we're reserving that capacity and it is available for use. So ratepayers who have the capacity to connect and do so should be paying the pro rata share of the water system reliability charge, especially in the case of Big Wave, whether or not they end up developing all the units. In addition, there's a special issue here because that pipeline, and as you're all aware, and I commend you for raising your connection fees, inflation in California construction costs increased 25.4% in the most recent year. So that pipeline is now worth over $1 million and is special to Big Wave. At only 3.5% inflation in 40 years, that asset will cost 4 times as much to replace as it does now. If we were to follow the American Water Works Association Capital Reserve Guidelines, reserves should be set aside annually based on the remaining life and current replacement cost. And that math would work out to a little over $25,000 a charge to Big Wave just for this pipe, forgetting all other assets and participation. And that annual reserve contribution would grow to $100,000 by year 40. And of course, it's really questionable whether we're going to live to see 3.5% inflation. We don't know. The failure to charge this user extra charges for this asset and the full connection capacity that they potentially could be using means that other ratepayers are subsidizing the expense that are not being charged to this ratepayer. Whether they decide to use the water or not, they have access to it or potential access to it. The asset they supplied is aging, it's inflating in cost, and we've reserved system capacity for their use. And I bring this up as an important issue because, as is true throughout public works in this county and the entire country, there is a lack of capital reserve adequacy all over, including, I believe, at MWSD. And as some of you know, I've developed an analysis of the reserve adequacy of public works institution based on public financial statements. And while my specific values and ratings are being debated as we speak with board members of some public works agencies, the relative reserve positions are still informative. And comparing Montara's reserve position to others shows that we have 4 times the reserves of Pacifica, an extra 50% more reserves than Half Moon Bay, but we're 33% worse than CCWD. We only have 40% of the reserves of North Coast County Water, 1/4 of what San Bruno has, and 15% of Belmont's public works. So I submit that there are issues that require us to look strongly at the charges, whether they're asset-based or volumetric, whether the connection fees or not, that are in effect for this client and any others. And if there's a decision to be made, I would suggest that the board delay making it until a written financial assessment is provided that demonstrates that no harm is being done to or no subsidy being provided by other ratepayers. And I'll be happy to put this in writing after I hear the discussion and what you decide to do and why you're doing it. Thanks.
I believe this is a informational item only,
Yes.
That's correct.
so we cannot actually debate it.
So we can ask questions about it. Tanya, I was looking at the diagrams. I probably just don't know how to read it, but in looking at the individual bathrooms, I'm not seeing what would be shower or tub. Is that because I don't know how to look for it?
Sorry, I'm just, for some reason, can't open it. There is, generally speaking, very little information available, and that's why we're sizing it the way we're sizing it.
Yeah.
For some
Just
reason,
for occupancy, I mean, that's a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
This is something I would expect to see in the diagram. I see toilet, I see a sink. I don't see enough on the legend to convince myself that I know that I am seeing what might be just like, it might all be showers or something, but it's just kind of hard to tell.
That's exactly right. It's hard to tell.
So Tanya, your answer to Scott's question was you don't have enough information on the plans to answer that question, correct?
That's correct. Well,
Okay.
I think Director Boyd is correct that the showers are not shown. Whether or not there will be showers or not, we don't know. And these are very preliminary plans. And we had to make our recommendation and get back to the applicant based on their application and these plans. And so.
Okay.
At this time, that's all we have to go by. And they're saying, yes, that's correct. We don't know what the usage is going to be, except for one unit.
I don't see, maybe I'm missing it. I don't see any unit that specifies. I don't see anything adequate for laundry facilities.
These are commercial units.
Oh, these are commercial units.
Yeah, they're not residential. They're commercial.
Well, I misconstrued what they were. Okay, good. That's that's the piece of information that turns out I really needed. Okay. Just one last question that I've got is for shared building water. So hose bibs on the outside or any of those other things. I presume it has sprinklers as part of this, but that would not be part of the meter sizing for the potable water, right?
That's correct. That would be a separate irrigation meter, but that was not submitted.
Okay. Do you have a notion of which unit they would allocate the common water to?
Not really, not at this time.
Okay. So it's interesting to see this much detail, but some of the more interesting detail not there. Someone else had a question. Was that you, Jim?
No, I'm sorry, Scott. Yes, thank you, Scott. So the fire suppression system or tanks are not shown here at this time. Is that what you said, Tanya?
No. They're not having tanks. They are getting fire service from the district in the main. That's a separate meter and separate
meter. Okay, all right.
Connection fee. They will be sizing that based on their fire protection engineer calculations.
Oh, okay. So these are commercial developments, each with a access from the outside sidewalk area for commercial use.
That's what it appears. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Well, with that, thank you, Tanya, for bringing this to us. It's interesting to see, and I appreciate the awareness that you're helping us with. Okay, let's move on.
And you'll and Tanya, and I know Tanya and Clemens will keep us informed step by step in this process.
Certainly.
Okay, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to reports. Do we have anything for Sewer Authority Mid-Coast? Rick, maybe?
Peter? No. I can't even remember what the items were anymore. They were that non-significant. I think the only one that was really significant was the approval for the expenditure of $25,000 for an ISO designation. That was turned down 4-1 by the board members. That was the only really important point I remember.
What does that stand for, Peter?
The ISO designation 14001, I believe it was, has to do with how green we are as SAM with the procedures that we have in place and how we could possibly improve upon those procedures by having an additional supervisory body find out what exactly you're doing where, environmentally speaking. And it seemed silly to me to spend $25,000 on that plus another $4,000 a year simply to do that when we already have various organizations in place that look exactly at those environmental points that the ISO is also looking at. So it seemed like a duplication of supervision, but Kishan explained it in a different way. He said, by having this ISO designation in place, we will become more aware as a unit, each individual, as to what we can do to improve our environmental stance. But as I said before, the board members did not agree with that and said, let's vote this down. This looks like an expenditure that we can miss.
Okay. I saw that looking at the agenda, it also had doing adjustments to the salary and terms for unrepresented employees. So that looks like an update on the salary schedule.
That was just a minor adjustment in the description for what the non-union employee was getting, putting him at the same level as all the other employees, benefit-wise and also remuneration-wise.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Do we have, and I see a hand from Michelle.
Yeah, Jeremy reported out in the last two meetings on the next to last meeting was on PFAS, and basically the quote was, "We have it in our bodies, so we have to control it through the sewer." And then he did another one that was like groundwater control, which was also PFAS. It was a Southern California lawsuit, but good to look up on that, FYI.
I remember it now. It was a lawsuit against the city of Vacaville, I believe.
There you go, Vacaville. Very good. Thank you.
Could you explain? I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What is PFAT?
So PFAS is the forever chemicals. They're the ones that, the plastics and things like that, all the chemicals that we shouldn't be having. Well, we're imbibing them in food and drink and through our skin, through clothes and things like that, and we're peeing them out. And so Greg was asking at the last meeting, he says, why can't we control the PFAS on the front end? And Jeremy was saying it's because it's in our bodies already and it's coming out through the sewer.
And so what was the issue about that with Sam?
Well, so the people who control PFAS, the FDA, I'm not sure which authority it is, but basically they're saying that they have to control it on their end. There has to be some sort of federal designation to be able to control this stuff. Because right now, there's no way that we can afford to be able to control PFAS in our sewer system. It's going to require a whole nother level of chemical, jurisdiction.
Probably the most famous PFAS chemicals are, you might remember Scotchgard, just spray it on anything. Yeah. And also fire retardants on things like furniture.
I think the issue was more as to how are we responsible for contaminants going through our pipe? Can we, as a water agency, be sued by others for carrying contaminants that we ourselves are not really aware of? And the decision was that no, we cannot really be made responsible unless we have done something deliberately, not if we carry it without knowing.
Okay. So you're concerned about the outfall, for example?
Yeah, you're concerned about the liability for the individual water agency when the environmental agency starts complaining that we have contaminants in our sewage or in our water line.
We've actually, well, that's correct, and it's what agencies are anticipating is what appears to be happening at the federal level is that regulations will be coming. And so it's good to start to educate on this, start to think about this. You may recall that at SAM, we've been talking about contaminants of emerging concern since we first started looking at recycled water in about 2005. And so, what you might recall is we talked about things like if somebody wants to do toilet to tap in the unpleasant way of talking about water recycling, taking sewage water and putting it back into the drinking water system, which we're not doing. But if you're going to do that, then you got to look at, well, what are people putting into it? And are we able to clean it all out? And so that's why we started talking about, well, look at pharmaceuticals. We're not even examining which pharmaceuticals are in the waste stream, much less talking about how can we reliably remove them before we use the water for some purpose like crops or drinking water or so forth. So this is just a matter, and I'm glad to see Jeremy's doing it, of building awareness of what could be coming on the regulatory front. Greg?
I only wanted to volunteer an MCC update if you wish it.
If you've got something, you bet.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I have several things. I want the community to be aware that the RCD has completed an El Granada wildfire resiliency scoping study. It did include, as part of the study area, as far up as we are. We're reviewing the 150-page report and trying to get our handle on what will now happen and who will be responsible for doing what to mitigate wildfire actions. And I'm sure our discussions will come back to eventually things like the Martini Creek bypass, eucalyptus up here, et cetera. Secondly, you're probably aware there was a lot of concern about noise at the airport, which seemed to have abated, but there is continuing concern about lead in the aircraft fuel, which we have now written a second letter, the MCC has, to ask the county to stop having lead in the aircraft fuel because of children. And that's a long issue. I think the community is aware that Quarry Park now has a pump track, sort of a mountain biking playground. Parking's a concern, and there's a master plan under discussion for Quarry Park. There's still time to comment on that. I'm going to go on a tour, next week, I think. There are several transportation-related initiatives active or pending. Tonight, in fact, there's a draft environmental impact report on what's called the Caltrans multi-asset roadway project. The Caltrans variable messaging signs, which I know most of the community has opposed, have not yet died. There's mixed feelings on the instrumentation and the value we might get from having more advanced monitoring equipment in terms of substantiating our traffic problems, but there's concerns that have been raised about things like privacy. So that's being debated. And I think you're all aware the Medio Creek Bridge is underway of being repaired. There's more, but I'll stop there. There is a newsletter coming out from the MCC 3 times a year. If you want to get updates on what we're doing on a belated fashion, you can sign up for that, or you can just read Coastside Buzz and you'll find things more or less in real time. And finally, we have potentially 4 council members on the MCC leaving at the end of their terms this year, thanks to MWSD for running the Academy for Government Service and Office. We hope that there will be new people running for office to serve on the Midcoast Community Council this November. Thanks, and I am open to take any questions.
I hope you meant thanks for running the Academy, not that they're leaving thanks to us running the Academy.
No. Thanks for running the Academy. That was very useful.
All right. Just a little pause would have been.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Rick, do we have a CSDA or LAFCO report?
Nothing on CSDA. The LAFCO, we brought in a whole bunch of new members and they just got sworn in. We started a discussion that wasn't on the agenda, and Rob Bartoli decided that it would be okay to, I got this bonging over here, to, within reason, discuss the item and the status of it. That's the only main item we had. So, for better or worse.
Was it anything interesting or just?
Horsley said something about there seems to be a general consensus that people want to punish the sanitary district for lack of whatever. And the board of East Palo Alto Sanitary District sent a letter saying, well, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to donate $12 million from our reserves. We're going to contract with somebody professionally to do an analysis at your expense. And that's where we kind of ended the debate. Kate, the other special districts rep, said, isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? And that's as far as we got. So.
Okay, the drama continues. Right, attorney's report, Christine.
Thank you, President Boyd. I have no report, but I will take this opportunity to make a statement about closed session that Director Lohman will be recusing himself from and not attend the closed session item pertaining to real property negotiations due to his conflict of interest under Government Code Section 87-100, and he will disengage from Zoom for that item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Christine. Do we have any director's reports? General Manager's report.
Yeah, one item. I wanted to congratulate once more our friends at the Coastside County Water District for their 75th anniversary. That was this past Tuesday. I did receive an invitation the week before, personal invitation, so I attended, and was a very brief but nice ceremony. Lasted only an hour. Wanted to thank them again for the invitation, and congratulations once more.
No, thanks for bringing that up. They, like we, provide service 24/7 to their entire community, and they've been doing it for a very long time. And the community seems to be rather happy to have that service. So it's honestly, I mean, we know what it takes to keep an organization running, and it's no small feat. So congratulations to CCWD. That's terrific. All right, thank you. We now have more work to do, but it's going to be in closed session. So I'm going to read over what we'll be covering, and then we'll take a brief break and say farewell to all of our friends in the public. And then we'll reconvene in closed session. And what we'll be discussing, we've got a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation on 2 cases. One is City of Half Moon Bay versus Granada Community Services District et al. That includes us. And then Olympian Gulf Properties, Inc. versus Keith Nearhand, DBA KN Properties. And then we've got 2 potential cases to talk with our counsel about of anticipated litigation or initiation of litigation. And then we've got a conference with real property negotiators regarding the property at 771 Rivera Road here in Montara. And then if we take any action, we will, you can read what's on the agenda. It's okay. If we take any action, we'll report that out, and that will be in our minutes as well. So thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate the participation and the attention, and please come again. Don't be shy with your questions and your comments. Thank you all, and let's reconvene at say 12 after.
12 after.